calling the April 2nd Board of Appeals meeting to order. Before we get started, I'd like to add a new item to the agenda. We do need to vote for and agree on new officers at our first meeting of the year, and this is our first meeting of the year. So I have been president. If there's no objection, I don't mind continuing on with that. If I could get a motion.
Motion to continue on.
Second.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Wayne, are you willing to continue being vice president?
Yes.
All right. Do I hear a motion for that, Scott?
Motion that Wayne continue being vice president.
All right. Second. All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Good.
I have a
That
question.
is clear. Yes.
If we decide that we want to take.
And you need to put your microphone on. Okay, thank you, Scott.
We decide that we want to change this decision sometime down the road, say September or something like that. Or if we have an illness or something and somebody such as myself is not capable of continuing on, we can revisit this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Very
Absolutely.
good. Thank you.
And we do have Jack, of course, as an alternate, very capable alternate, and I appreciate you being here with your diligence. All right, good. Any other questions? Comments? All right, sorry, my insulin pump is talking to me. All right. Sorry about that. So I would like to call the meeting, well, I already called the meeting to order. I'd like to open it. We do have new business. But first, what I'd like to do is review and approve the minutes from June 11th, 2024. And that was the Irish Town variance request, Irish Town Road. The minutes were sent to both of you, to all of us. I didn't have any questions or comments about the minutes in terms of them being correct. Did you notice anything that needed to be corrected, Scott? Wayne? Jack, you also got a copy of the minutes. I know it's unusual to ask, but I'd just like to know if you saw anything that needed to be corrected. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as written and sent out?
Motion to approve.
All right, second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much. We got that one down. All right, now we'll swear in the witnesses, and that would be Jed Crook and Kristen Crook and anyone else who would like to speak during the meeting. All right. Okay, please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the response given and statements made by you in these proceedings will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? If so, state I do. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So what we are hearing tonight is the special.
Excuse me, Diane.
Yes.
Did we need to stand, Scott and I?
No, you did not. You're not offering testimony tonight.
We didn't think so. Thank you.
Thank you for asking the question. Any questions, bring them up. We want to make sure we do this right. All right. Good. So we are here tonight for the special exception request, property address 17750 Creamery Road. Applicant is Kristen Crook, who is the vice president of Chesterton Academy of the Annunciation. Property owners are listed. The applicant is requesting a special exception from us, the Board of Appeals, to allow the specific use of the property referenced above. Specifically, it requests to the leasing of Unit A2 at the aforementioned property as a permanent location for the private school known as Chesterton Academy of the Annunciation. In February 2024, the Board of Appeals granted a special exception permitting this use until December 2024. The applicant has since resubmitted a zoning permit application to continue using the property for this purpose. As the previously granted special exception has expired, the applicant is now seeking its renewal to allow the continuation of the educational activities that have been ongoing since the Board of Appeals initial approval in 2024. Additionally, the school intends to expand its physical space and occupancy capacity to support anticipated future growth. So that is the case before us tonight. Could we have the presentation of the case by the staff?
Sure. So, as you mentioned in March 2025, the applicant submitted a change of use permit application reflecting their interest in removing the interior partition to allow Chesterton Academy to occupy the entire unit of A2. So this would enable the school to expand its physical space and increase its student capacity. And of course, as a result, the applicant submitted a special exception request. So the board is required to consider a series of factors before granting a special exception, particularly when evaluating whether a proposed use, such as a private school, is appropriate within the industrial park. So our analysis focuses on compatibility, operational impacts, and consistency with the town's planning long-term planning goals. The industrial park district is primarily intended for commercial and light industrial uses. A private school, especially one that anticipates growth, is not consistent with the intended character of the district. So this is reinforced by ongoing noise complaints submitted by neighboring businesses. We've had reports citing disturbances from music group activities and general student movement as disruptions to regular business operations that are there. And in support of these complaints, the town has received audio recordings from Miss Jen Warden of State Farm, which if you could pull them up. Yeah.
Are you introducing those now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ninth grade, okay? In ninth grade, I was here. Ninth grade, holy crap, that was. I was ninth grade. I'm back now. I was ninth grade, I was.
So that's one of them. We have two more.
And Najil, if I could just ask before you play that, was that the letter, those came with the letter dated December 18th, 2024, just for the record.
Correct.
So that we're sure we have that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's one more.
So I guess those are the three that we have. And so in response to the complaints, the town issued a formal letter requesting that the school address these reported concerns of noise. And Chesterton Academy sent a response with the assurance that, they would take steps to mitigate the problem. But more recent complaints kind of suggest that they haven't been resolved. So that's besides the noise issue, the space is for commercial purpose, and there's the site logistics. They don't really line up with what is needed for a school to function. There are no pedestrian safety zones or designated carpool areas. Parking is shared with other tenants, which creates a potential safety concerns. And it's just simply not designed to support a school environment. And the space is for non-commercial purposes, and that using that for a school would hinder the town's economic development efforts. A school doesn't generate commercial tax revenue, but more importantly, it could discourage future businesses from locating within the industrial park. And this outcome would conflict with the town's economic objectives outlined in the town comprehensive plan. So for these reasons, land use incompatibility, unresolved operational conflicts, and misalignment with the town's planning goals, the staff recommends that the Board of Appeals deny the special exception request for continued and expanded use of the property by Chesterton Academy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If we could have the applicant, Kristen and or Jed, whoever wants to come first. You'll need to state your name and address for the record.
Kristen Crook, 215 Stoll Court, Thurmont, Maryland, 21788.
All right, thank you. Your presentation.
It's helpful videos for sure. We received a complaint from Ms. Gordon the first week of school. She noted that it was loud and there was banging on the wall. We did not hear from her after that, but we did take steps to, essentially there was a student who definitely fell against the wall that day. But we did take steps to kind of create a barrier from that wall. And we also did move music in December. It took place in a different room and entirely. But from September to December, when we first heard from Najila, we did not have any complaints from her or from the landlord. Anytime we heard a complaint, we acted immediately. I wish it had been given to us so we could fix it faster. The wall in question that you see here, that's the wall, like to give some background, which I gave in my letter to the Board of Appeals. Last year when we were given for the whole space, that wall was not there. The landlord wanted to split the space in order to get revenue faster. So he said, sure. It was always with the understanding that he would move this other tenant and give us the whole space back. Okay. And so this interior wall was, I don't think, very thick. I think it was for whatever it had to be. But he was able to offer her a different space, which she accepted. And she has not been there since March 3rd. That wall is the wall that we hope to take down. We began paying rent on that space last month. And so that interior wall, in a sense, I understand the noise issue, but it doesn't exist anymore. She's not there for us to disrupt. We do have 2 more years left on our lease. I don't know, what will happen after those years, but I have been told that our neighbors next to us, First Source, have just signed a 5-year lease. They like us very much. They've given us use of their basketball hoop. They've donated whiteboards. They have talked about subletting to us. So we have a good relationship with them. As far as hindering any growth next to us, they're there for longer than we are definitely there, so to speak. Yes.
Could you turn on your microphone?
Mr. Slaughter, I'm sorry. Can you turn on your microphone and repeat that question?
Apologies. With regard to your long-range intentions, do you plan on looking for alternative space after this lease is up? Or do you plan on trying to make this work?
I think we're just always kind of discerning that and seeing what does the school need right now. We definitely would appreciate more space. Like we go with what the county recommends. So with regard to like, is it an appropriate space for students? This county has done inspections. The Maryland State Department of Education has done inspections. So from them, we've we've fulfilled all of our requirements. They don't let you open without that. We had to go through all that. So it's helpful to have a space that fulfills those requirements, and we don't intend to get very big. The space, if we were to be able to expand, the county says somewhere around 100. We're not interested in that. We've said 50, but that's highballing it. I don't see us being 50 in the next 2 years at all. We're looking at probably 35 next year. But we have teachers in there throughout the day, probably about 40. If we get there, enrollment is a slow, steady. But to answer your question, I think we're just generally always looking for something else. But
yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. So, what's the total volume of persons in that space on any given day?
we have 18 students and typically 2 teachers at one time, so about 20 in our current space.
And anybody can be talking or making a certain amount of noise, right?
Generally, so what would help if we were to be able to take the wall down, our common room would be able to get larger, and then like lunch would be in there, not in different classrooms. So that would be very helpful. Music would also be within the interior, so no shared walls. It's just protected.
So what is, I'm sorry, just trying to better understand. So what is or are the prohibitions against doing what you just said? Getting the wall knocked down or soundproofing better, whatever?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think what you were alluding to is that you've been seeking to try and do something to modify that current space so that it's more noise resistant or something like that. And that's what I'm alluding to. So what is it that you can or can't do? And is it reasonable? And what has the landlord said about it?
We would like to, he thinks it's fine to put up the soundproof panels that we're looking into now. If we were given, the ability to expand our occupancy into the other space, the shared wall with blue line would get panels, soundproofing panels, which our friends who were in the space before used that. They had a recording studio and video studio. So the space had soundproofing panels. So we looked into that a bit.
And that worked?
Oh.
For them, it did.
Wait a minute. Now I'm confused. A2A, you occupy currently the south side, which is facing the road, right? State Farm was occupying the
North.
front side, which was north. So you said that they moved in
March 3rd.
March 3rd of this year. So when did you sign the 2-year lease?
We have a 3-year lease that we signed. Oh, he left.
Alcohol.
We signed it, I believe, officially in May or June of 24.
of 24. So you signed a 3-year lease with the understanding that the Board of Appeals had given you the permission to occupy until the end of December.
We also did an
2024.
extension to that. We hadn't, that wasn't in the beginning, but we had this extended in August 2024 to let us keep going through our term. I
I'm,
have the email from Najila from August.
I don't have any documents to that impact that, that.
Because
it
we knew
was
it would expire in the
extended?
middle of our year, so we had to, we extended it before the school year began in order to make sure we didn't lose zoning during our school year, and that was in August. It's on our wall of our school right now. It's framed.
Okay.
So.
Najila, could you please explain?
Yes, so since the Board of Appeals approved the use, staff thought that it'd be okay to approve it since it's been approved by the Board of Appeals. And with that understanding, we did extend or signed a occupancy permit. And that was, I can't remember which month it was, but it was earlier last month, yeah.
Okay, well, it makes sense, you know, that you would look at the whole school year. So, but none of that was in our information, so I was
Yeah.
kind of, and I was wondering why you were still there after,
Mhm.
since the Board of Appeals specifically said December
Mhm.
2024. Okay,
Right.
Yeah, we did not start any activities for the year until we had that in August.
okay, so you were approved, we approved you in February of 2024.
Right.
For north and south, because there wasn't a wall up, yes.
For North and South.
Mhm.
And then you signed the lease in,
I believe there was different versions of the lease, but the final version, I believe, was May. I can look it up
Okay,
if you need
but
it.
so you had both spaces then to a
No, in
north,
May, that was the final lease was just south. Mhm.
the final lease was just south.
With the understanding that his goal was to have us back in the full space when possible.
Okay,
So we kind of, yeah, we had that understanding.
The landlord,
Mhm.
they want you back.
He wanted us
Is
back.
that what you're saying?
I mean, he likes us very much. He also started a school, so he's been very understanding of all that entails.
okay. A
I have
couple,
another question. you know.
yeah, go ahead. And I have a
Um,
couple others too.
I'm
So,
actually kind of sensitive to this. I was sharing a little personal experience with this sort of thing with Diane. The meeting. But it's not really relevant. But I think being sensitive to both sides of this is very important. So, in order to show your sensitivity to the complainants, what have you done to sort of make friends, make peace, and try and stay on their good side? And has that worked? If not, are you going to give that up? Do you have any suggestions? Have you had any second thoughts about how you've handled that or whatever?
I wish that when they had difficulty, they would have come to us. They came to us once. By that, I mean Miss Warden. And I have copies of the email with me if you'd like to see it, but she said, thanks for being so supportive. We assumed, because we were pretty firm with them, like we can't, I mean, you can ask our students, like they knew you can't be loud in this room. We did do music, but when she had complained about somebody banging against the wall and that someone had, I think, shrieked that day, she didn't mention music. We never, to be honest, we didn't even know that would cross a barrier. We thought it was like a massive noise that would have caused this somehow. And I appreciate the videos. We did test it out too. It's, I mean, you can hear it, but it's the music is louder, obviously. I wish she had told us that music was a struggle. Now, after we learned that in December is our last day before break, we did not have music in there for a long time. We
So-
didn't have any music.
All right, so can you just pause a moment? So the complaints, the bulk of them occurred prior to the adjustments that you made. Is that
From what
right?
I'm told, yes. I have not heard any other
So
since.
you don't have enough of a relationship with your neighbors to walk in there and say, is it better now?
We do with Blue Line, Kendra, and we've worked with them. Blue Line gave us our, not gave, but they were the ones who did our bathroom and our renovations. So we had a pretty good relationship with them. We figured if something was wrong, they'd tell us. At one point, a ball hit the wall and scared Kendra, who works there during the day. And she did come over, and it was helpful because we were able to show the students, like, you see a wall, but this is Miss Kendra behind the wall. And they understood. They're older. They don't not understand, but it was helpful that there was a person we could show them, like, you need to be respectful. That was very important to us, very helpful. And so it was hard for us to go from September to December, having no communication, and then to find there was the complaint, right, especially right before Christmas. It was just, I think it could have been done differently. The landlord had not received any complaints either, because I asked him. So if we had known, we would have taken immediate steps.
Okay. So that said, if you had taken immediate steps and I think you've noticed that there is a difference after what you've done, do you think that this problem might have gone away? In other words, are these issues just the residual sort of just fermenting for as long as they have? Or are these chronic problems that no matter what you've done, your tenants or your neighbors, excuse me, still feel as though they've been inadequate?
Since I haven't heard them, I can't really respond. I don't know. I do know that when we had a complaint, we addressed it, and we've taken, like, no balls in the school. The balls are in the headmaster's trunk, for example. We've moved the backpacks away from walls. They're now in the front office. We don't have offices anymore. There's backpack rooms. They're not banging against any walls. We have furniture up against walls to create a barrier, to create students not falling against the wall, which happens. Boys are boys. So we did, whenever we got a complaint, we took many steps to discern what was the cause, and then to also fix it. So like Kendra says, something banged against the wall. Okay, that's a ball or a backpack. So we fixed the ball in the backpack.
I'd like to ask a question on the letter from December 17th. You said possibly install soundproofing material. Was that done?
So the landlord told us they would be moving in January. And so we didn't put that in there yet because we were waiting to hear what the story was with when they were moving.
You mean your neighbor was going to be moving?
Yes.
The one that
She
complained.
knew on November 20th that she was moving, a month before she complained.
So is she still there?
No, she moved on March 3rd.
So she's gone. So,
She's the one that moved on March 3rd.
so does the complaint still exist?
We've not received anything, but it can't. I mean, we have lease of that. We are currently paying lease on that space. It's just our storage stuff in there right now. There's no one there.
Okay, so you're paying on the front part of 2. All right. And that was part of what you agreed to on March 3rd.
Yes, we signed the lease we signed the lease in January. He wanted our amendment. Actually, no, we got the amendment in January. I believe we signed it in March because we waited till she signed hers to make
Okay.
sure that she was moving. And it took a little while because State Farm is as an upper tier. It took 90 days because it wasn't just her who had to sign it.
All right,
So I have another question. So there's 2 tenants, basically, forgive me if there's 5, but I was listening. And there were 2 that you brought up. One complained, the other didn't seem to mind. Is that right?
I think she minded enough to come over, but
But she was peaceful.
yeah. And the landlord did speak with Kevin of Blue Line. He says maybe once or twice a month there might be a noise that bothers him. It's their conference room that we share. So he said rarely, but we understand it would help, like, if we did expand, that noise moves away from his wall too.
May,
So,
Yeah,
Diana,
yeah,
go
but
ahead.
hold on a second. Scott, go ahead.
did I hear you correctly in saying that at all times there's 2 teachers with how many students?
18.
And so,
And rather, I said that's the norm. Sometimes there's, when they're switching, there might be one. There's one in there for a short period on certain days, but yeah.
is it presumptuous to think that two teachers, leaders of the classroom, could have or should have kept the surrounding environment in mind pretty much at all times? And is that something that is an oversight on the school's part, or was that a tactical error perhaps made by the teachers and not?
I think if you examine the videos to give you some context of when they occurred, the talking one, that's during Lyceum, lunch and Lyceum, which is 20 minutes a day in that room along that shared wall. And it was a kind of a consistent, like, you need to keep it down, but without knowing that that's what was bothering her, we didn't know they were actually like that it would transfer that loudly to her, because she complained about wall banging. She said she thought the building was falling down, or not the building, but the wall was falling down. And she complained about somebody yelled that day, which I think they were doing drama auditions, so that might have been part of it. But so it wasn't necessarily something that crossed her minds of, oh, like this amount of talking is too loud, since she didn't share that that was a concern. I didn't know that crossed the barrier as much. And then with regard to music, that was one day a week for 45 minutes to an hour, not consistently singing the whole time. So I think without her saying that that was a problem, I don't think we understood that it was that loud to her. She didn't share it. If she had, when she did, we moved music immediately. So I think when we knew, we took immediate steps.
So there's clearly at least one generation difference between me and anybody in that classroom. Okay. Have things changed that much that the norm for an elementary school classroom is, the singing I can understand. A guy falling up against the wall, yeah, I know boys will be boys, but that's what teachers are for. And so how does that play into all of this in the past, the present, and going forward?
So the room next to the shared wall isn't a classroom. So when they're in there, like I said, music, which you understood, Lyceum and lunch, I think he just fell off his chair, to be honest. That's what happened the day that she said he's a larger boy, and I think the chair actually broke. So it's not like he's falling against the wall. There was sort of somewhat of a reasonable reason why it happened. But the actual classrooms are in separate areas of the school, and those are, I think Blue Line would probably share too, like they're quieter, like because there's class happening and it's quiet. So the shared room, which because they're gone, that issue doesn't exist anymore because she's not there to be disturbed by it. I don't know if that helps to answer the question at all.
So maybe I can make the question simpler. Okay. If it's only a matter of accountability and responsibility, who is accountable for the conduct of the students in the classroom? And is there anything that you guys are thinking about? Do you need 3 people in there, or?
So the classrooms, there's not really an issue in the classrooms. So when the class is occurring for most of the day, it's normal volume.
So this is an activity kind of room?
This is a common room along that shared wall. That's the wall that you saw is the shared wall. We called it the shared wall. They know when I'm in there telling them, like, you have to be quiet. This is the shared wall. And so whatever, right now, even we don't use it all that much. We use it the other day to pray the rosary, and they sit along the other wall of it, because I still think they're a little nervous. And so they sit along the other wall and they sit there for lunch, again, about 20 minutes, maybe 15, 20 minutes a day. Usually they're out of there pretty quickly. But as far as the classroom situation, those are in different areas of the building. We do have a demerit system. They get in trouble if they are not obeying the rules. Yeah, if there was still a shared wall situation, which there's not, or we wouldn't be here, we
Understand.
might, put up tiles. Like if she didn't move, that's where we would have been in January, to put up tiles.
And so it's not my objective to put words in your mouth, okay? But I want to make sure I understand. You don't have a problem in the classroom. You have a problem in the activity room. And the activity room, by nature, is a place where kids are kind of like at recess or something like that.
The wall you saw is the wall along the side of the activity room, the common room, we call it. Yeah.
And was it ever considered to go to the landlord and say, what you've given us, I understand is, meets your needs right now, but it's not meeting the needs of the school.
We told him that it was I feel like it was late October, and we just gave it to Jesus, to be honest. And 2 weeks later, he said, I have had a space open up in my other building. I said, are you open to offering it to Miss Warden? It might be quieter for her there. And she accepted it. They made it very nice for her from January to March. After we got the complaint, we did not use that room for students anymore. It became our office. It was just 2 desks and bookcases in there for 3 months. So we actually lost about a third of our space, so to speak, during those months. That's how serious we took it. We did not have them in there at all.
Okay. We need to come back to the fact that this is about the use of this particular property for a school in this location. So we need to be focusing on that. The shared wall is going to come down, right?
Lord willing, yes.
Okay. Yeah,
That
it's
didn't sound like
unfortunate.
a yes, though. What?
That's why we're here. I can't take the wall down until you approve it.
Right.
That's the whole problem. The county needed a zoning certificate. It was 3 weeks after it expired. And so we were told we had to redo it. The whole area was given the special exception already.
The whole
It's north and
area,
south.
north and south, were granted the special exception. So
The problems exist because we agreed to share space.
because you what?
We agreed to share the space, which to her credit, Miss Warden did not know that we're the reason she had a space.
And I think I agree with what you just said, and I didn't hear that come up.
Either did I.
I'm sorry.
I say either did I.
Yeah.
So, just for everybody's benefit, can we kind of level set this? What are the plans now going forward to address this problem? You're making structural changes, is that correct?
Our goal is to, I shouldn't say take back, because we haven't been in the whole space, but it was offered to us. So we would like to go with our initial intention of having our business in this whole footprint again. It very much helps us. It gives us the space we need with our high schoolers. You mentioned elementary, it is high school. And yes, the wall that was put up in June, July would come down and open up the space again.
Okay. I'd like to ask, now I'm confused between elementary and high school. What is the distribution of
We have
the
9th, 10th, and
students?
11th. It's
Ninth.
not an elementary school.
9th, 10th, and 11th. Okay. I had a different impression in my mind of the ages of the students based on previous discussions.
I did too, but it was unfounded.
Well, that's why we call them assumptions. So right now, Builders First Source is if you're at the back of your building or facing the street.
Mhm.
Builders First Source is over here and Blue Line Improvement is over here.
Blue line's behind us.
Blue Line is behind.
Mhm.
So A1 is operated by you as well.
We,
No?
it's hard to know what addresses the town's given for the lots, but we're A2 South. So when you look at our building, we're those two doors. And then
Oh, you've got two
We have two
doors there,
doors.
because it says on the outside of the building, A1 and A2.
that's very old.
So that's confusing.
So technically, yes, Coronation Media, before we moved in, they had this space. We took their lease. They had A1, or they had A2 at first, and then they expanded to A1, I believe. So they just never thought to take it down.
Okay, so it's actually called A2,
Now
which
it's A2.
includes next to Blue Line construction.
On
Because
the
you're
other
going all
side.
the way.
Yeah, it would just
Right.
be A2 South still,
So they'd
or
be,
A2.
so they'd be here. You guys would be here in a L shape,
Mhm. Yes.
backwards L.
It's sort of backwards from what you're saying, but yes,
Yeah, okay,
it's a square. And so we would have three and they have one.
right,
I-
out of
I'm-
the square.
I'm still struggling with something on this. So, the person that lodged the complaint that most of this is based on has been relocated.
Yes, and she knew she was relocating in November and complained
What was
with she knew she was relocating in November. And we got the complaint December.
Maybe she was just being thorough. But that said, nobody else has lodged a complaint.
Not that we have heard.
And
I would like to,
'cause
hold you for a
think this
minute.
is really important.
I've heard that Blue Line had also, you said numerous complaints
Right.
in your letter. And by the way, this letter doesn't have a date on it. Is
Ye-
that December 17th?
December 17th, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
It says concerns noise generator at the school has reached a level that poses a significant threat to the viability of their operations. And it says more than one tenant, right?
And I did ask, if I may say, when I did ask, because I wanted to make sure we followed up with whoever had a need, I was only told that it was State Farm and it was music.
Okay, let me double check that with staff.
Okay, so Blue Line is someone I had a conversation with. Unfortunately, I don't have anything in writing. They're the ones who had told me that it's been so loud that it's been difficult to focus and just basically that. But I understand like you would need it in writing, but I don't have that. Apologies.
I only have from the landlord, Kevin, like he's saying that Kevin says it's once or twice a month at most. I only have that from, and I have Kendra's, the one time, I think it was probably a ball or a heavy backpack hit the wall. That's what I
Right,
have
and
from
you
Blue.
said that you moved
We gave
the
up our
backpacks
offices.
and put
Yes.
library shelving or
Yes.
something.
Mhm.
Okay.
We have no more offices. They're just backpack rooms.
Have you heard from Blue Line since then?
I heard from them 2 days ago. And they told me it's just really loud at that time and I couldn't go because I was in a meeting to go tell them or see it myself, unfortunately. But 2 days ago, Blue Line came in and mentioned that.
Okay. All right, so there have been recent complaints.
Yeah, they've
From-
been verified, but you would have been happy to do that. You just couldn't.
Right,
So there's always the option that we postpone a decision until there's more evidence, so to speak. This could come up again and you could research it directly, right?
Right.
well, all right. But that's not the only consideration that staff gave in their report on this. So there were other considerations that were mentioned in the staff report. And I was also, is this your wording, Najila, permanent location for the private school? I was concerned by that. It's in the background.
Oh, I meant to omit that word. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, you meant to?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, because that very much concerned me.
Mm.
All right, so that was not supposed to be there.
permanent.
Yeah. It's kind of glaring there, permanent location. Okay, so the considerations, the evaluation by criteria, if you guys could go to page 5. Oh, wait a minute. Are there any other questions of Kristen?
Kristen.
Kristen. Sorry, I know too many Kirstens.
It's okay.
Right now, or let's look at these evaluation by criteria and see if there's questions that we have for you based on that.
So if we're going to look at, can I make a statement so that you guys can correct me?
Sure, go ahead.
When I read them, and especially when you get to the next page about the effect of noise on use of surrounding properties,
Mhm.
my immediate reaction was that our town planner did an outstanding job drawing conclusions based on facts that were not stated. And they didn't come up. I'm not sure all of them have come up yet. And so Clark, be ready to tell me to stop at any moment, okay? But this document represents the conclusions drawn by town staff and only town staff. And I asked questions, being very careful about not breaking any of the rules about what I can talk to other people about, but I asked several people on the Board of Commissioners, did they even know about the Board of Appeals hearing?
Well,
And the answer was no.
so I am not sure what the purpose of this is leading
Statement.
to, but
It's called check and balance.
that principle doesn't apply to this hearing because this board has the authority delegated from the Board of Commissioners to grant special exceptions. This is your domain. This is your decision. Respectfully, the Board of Commissioners don't play a role. The Board of Commissioners have already played their role by adopting a zoning ordinance that you are applying faithfully.
And the recommendations that the town planner is making are just those recommendations that we can either take or not take. And our job is to discuss them. I'm hearing you feel like.
I'm hearing that there's a very strong argument in writing in this document that says we should deny the application for a period, okay? And I respect that recommendation, but as I'm listening, I'm not sure due process has taken place, and that's not my call. So Clark.
Well, respectfully, we are in the middle of due process right now. That is what this hearing is.
That's why we're asking
this is-
questions.
The purpose of this hearing is for you to make this decision, for the applicant to have the ability to stand before you and present evidence, which she has done and is still in the process of doing, for staff to present their evidence, and then for you to weigh that evidence and and apply the zoning code based on that.
And I certainly don't want to disagree with you, but I'm sitting here being the dumb person that I am, trying to figure out what have I heard that pushes back on the school is not compatible with the surroundings and does not represent the most appropriate use of land and structure. and use conflicts with both the intent of the industrial park and the goals of the town.
And that's why we're having this discussion
That's
tonight.
right.
We're going to.
That's
I
make
why
those
respect
permitted
that,
it
and
the
I
first
would
time.
really like to contribute, but I'm not sure I've heard why this very clear recommendation was made yet. Because what I hear is there's been a lot of miscommunication between the landlord or bad decisions or lack of responsibility and accountability. I mean, I can put my finger on a lot of things that could have changed the outcome. But I haven't heard anything that is going to change the fact that our town staff is saying the use conflicts with the intent and the goals of the town's comprehensive plan.
Right, and the town's comprehensive plan states that we want to be economically viable. And the industrial park is meant to have businesses that would generate employment and generate tax bases.
But
So-
let me, if I can interject, let me make sure, and I know we've had this conversation before, but let's just level set on what special exceptions are and what we're doing. The decision before you is whether this school in this location presents unique adverse impacts. And there's the 14 points for you to consider in the agenda packet that are straight from the town code. That's what you're evaluating, which again, the Board of Commissioners have already made that decision. So just want to step back and make sure we're focusing on what we need to focus on tonight.
Okay. And town staff gives
Thank you.
a recommendation in each of the packages, either to approve or deny a request.
Right, because
That's
at the
their
end,
reason.
at the end of the hearing, the decision is going to have to be made by you three folks. And you three are going to have to make findings of fact supporting your decision based on the record that's been presented to you.
Mhm.
So to the extent that there is evidence that you would like to hear more about, questions you have, now is the time to get that all out so you have sufficient facts to make your findings at the end of the day.
Diane, can I bring something up?
Mhm.
Under complaint details from Jen Ward.
Okay, which.
Can-
Second
let me make
paragraph.
Can you specify the document that you're looking at just for the sake of the record?
It says complaint details.
Email of 12/18/2024.
That's correct, yeah.
And this was included in the staff report, is that?
Yes,
Okay.
it was included.
To Nahila.
What page then?
It's the complaint details. It's in the back of those documents, the
These?
actual application. Yeah, look further back in your packet. I want to make sure
So-
everybody's looking at the same.
That's
thing.
fine. Do you mind if I just start
What's
reading this
that?
paragraph?
You've got it. Okay, go ahead.
All right. This is the second paragraph on that first page. Begins with, "Good afternoon, Nahila." The second paragraph begins with, "When I initially moved in at Seton Square, things were well. Not too long after the school moved in behind me. It's been a struggle since. We constantly hear," that's an important way of saying it, "we constantly hear screaming through the walls, random piano and singing. But not just faint noises, it's loud. The worst part is the screaming and the slamming against the wall. I have both had customers in the office who have stopped mid-sentence to ask, 'What's going on?' I've been on the phone with customers and have been so startled by the banging on the wall because it sounds like someone is going to break it down." That would be hard to ignore if that's true.
May I respond?
Oh, absolutely. We're
Yeah,
just dealing
that's-
with what we've
this
been
is the
given.
I'm
Discussion.
concerned with her word constantly.
That's
Um,
oh my, yeah.
That room was not at the time, was not used more than 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes a day regularly, unless it was music and or drama, which would be another additional, sometimes up to 90, but usually closer to an hour. It was not a regular use classroom. I appreciate the videos. When we started putting stuff over there that was our storage, we kind of tested out the noise for the first time. And along one of the walls, I had to put my ear very close to hear what my husband was trying to tell me. I hear the music, but again, if we had only known, I would have loved to have fixed that for her. But I did not hear past September from her. And the initial complaint was not music. I don't know that I would say there was random piano banging either. We didn't have the piano in there. Only when the teacher brought the piano did it come. We got it around, I think it was November. We had a grant that we were able to bring a digital piano in. So I don't remember what date you said that was for, but I mean, it makes it sound like our students are always in the common room all day long, and they just aren't.
That's why I brought that up.
So the initial time when you guys heard about it was September 12th.
It's the only time we heard about it.
And then you got
It was not the
another
12th.
letter
We,
in
it was,
December
it was
18th.
December, sorry, it was, I believe it was September 12th, but it was September. We did not hear anything else from her ever,
Until
only from, letter.
December. Okay. Now,
And had she moved out by then?
no,
she
didn't
knew
move
she was
out
moving.
until
She didn't move
March
out till
3rd.
March 3rd.
March.
Right. So this one particular person is gone.
Correct. And
All right.
and to be
So-
fair, she also doesn't know that our yes was why she got a space in the first place. There was no availability. So the fact that she came here as a business to talk about economic, she's here because we allowed to share, we shared our space. To the
Okay.
other economic points, I can list businesses that we brought business to and referred people to who now use them. It's about 6 or
Okay.
7.
Good
But-
business partner, right?
Builder Source is on this side.
Yes,
Blue Line is over here.
it's behind. It's not on the side.
Right. But if Blue Line is making complaints as 2 days ago,
Mhm.
then noise seems to still be an issue. And maybe I mean, I'm just thinking maybe it's not possible to be quiet enough in a school in that kind of a facility. I understand you can't have no noise, but businesses on the other hand are on phones, conference calls, conference meetings, etc. And I was also concerned by something that I noticed today. Apparently the students go outside when there's recreation time and play at the basketball net
Mhm.
down the street. That's in the parking lot. I mean, I'd be concerned about having 18 students.
Well, it's not 18, but the landlord did say that was okay. There's also, First Source has most of their people working remotely. And so they actually offered us the basketball hoop to play there because we have lots of glass windows. So there isn't very much traffic at all because no one's coming to First Source. They don't have customers on that side. It's just deliveries. The only people coming in that parking lot is generally our people. And their break time is not a carpool time. So, but the boys that are playing it might be 9 to 10 of them. We only have 12 boys. The girls don't tend to play very much, tend to walk.
That's too bad. They could be good. too.
Well, skirts.
Yeah.
Sorry,
but
if I may add
Najila, you had a question or comment?
a comment. Yeah, so 2 days ago when I heard from Blue Line, he did mention that when he was driving into the parking lot, he almost hit a kid. Well, I don't have that in writing, but I just thought I would put that out there.
Okay.
Okay.
It was something that I noticed just being in the parking lot there, and there's obviously a basketball
Mhm.
net over there. that takes up like 2 or 3 parking spaces. You know, so I mean.
The
people
net's
could-
chained to the dumpster.
Mhm.
I'm not sure where the parking spaces start with regard to the location of the dumpster, but it's chained there, yeah. As to Blue Line's needs 2 days ago, I wish they had told us. I think that I think we would like to be given the opportunity to kind of talk with them more about like times it's happening, what are they hearing, so that we know, like, do we need noise panels in the classroom? Do we need noise panels here? Do we need noise panels everywhere? It seems that if we had greater communication, more could be done more quickly and then assessed to see like, is this working? So otherwise we just don't know if it's working or not. We're just, trying our best, seeing, okay, well, no one's complained, so maybe it's okay. They were noisier, I think, for April Fool's Day, to be honest, but
So am I correct? You're willing to do more if you knew what you could
absolutely.
do that would make a difference, right?
For example, we gave up our offices. Like, that's a very big deal. We don't have offices right now because we're so concerned about, I mean, we really appreciate Blue Line. They're the reason we have a bathroom. We worked with them very well over the summer, a lot. I wish we had been told.
I'm concerned that if it's not Builder Source that's there, if it's another business that moves in there, that they may not have the same sort of situation as
Mhm.
Builder Source does with just basically parking in the front,
Mhm.
except for the owner who almost hit a kid, which is.
From
not
what we
good.
understand, First Source just signed a 5-year lease, what the landlord said. So they plan to be there. It's empty. There's no one working on that entire wing. I don't know what they plan to do with it, but we have a good relationship with them.
Okay. And Blue Line obviously is an issue here. But I think what we need to do is determine if this is the best use for this. If it really still is an appropriate use as you plan to expand. And you're saying you plan to expand up to 50?
I don't even know that we'll get 50 when the time of our lease is up. That's more of like, I don't want to have to keep doing the meetings. I'm just shooting at, well, that number makes sense for probably maybe 5 years, but I don't know that we'll reach it and then by the end of the lease.
Okay. There was someone else who came in. Can I ask if that person has any relevance to the hearing? Is there any problem with that? Since he was late to the,
I can proffer that he does not.
okay. All right. Thank you very much. Do we need to sign it?
I don't know. It was given to us, so
Oh, no, it was just given to us to call on that. So
fair enough.
we're good. Anyway. All right. Are there other questions that you have right now? And do you feel, all right, let me start. Are there other questions that you have right now of either the staff or Clark or the applicant?
Let's focus on the applicant first. Do we have any additional questions for the applicant?
I don't. But
Okay.
what I will say is I respect and fully understand the conclusions that the town staff has drawn.
Okay.
And so-
Could we stick with the applicant right now?
Can I finish?
Just, if you could hold that. for a
You
minute.
said the town, the
I know,
staff.
I did.
Or
I did. And Clark asked us to focus on the applicant right now. So if you could hold those other two for a minute,
absolutely.
Wayne.
I had I think a much more interesting question now. So now that I've had an opportunity to get distracted, I'm a little less compelled to ask it. So I'll remain quiet from here
Oh, I don't want you to remain quiet.
on. So I want to circle back to something that I asked before because I think it is important. I personally, because I've been in these kind of situations before, and angry neighbors and all kinds of things, and I look back on it in my adult life and I say, boy, I really should have this or I should have that, etc. And I can understand my culpability, At the time, I thought it was all their fault. Lack of sensitivity, this, and both of those sort of perspectives have merit. They're just different people, so to speak, at different times. I don't know that you're ever gonna get this resolved. I mean, and yet on the other hand, it doesn't sound to me like it's as bad as some of them want to make it out to be. So I have a sort of reaction to this, and I'm listening and thinking to myself, well, what could be done, And so if you get into this and make modifications here and there, so are you just, chasing something down the road that you'll never get? Or would it really make a difference? I don't know. So what's your opinion? Do you think that the modifications that you're considering would make them happy? Or do you think these are just people that are not going to be happy because they feel that you're infringing on their rights?
I can't speak for Miss Warden as I have never interacted with her personally, only by email. I understand her concerns. That would be hard to work.
Yeah.
For Blue Line, I respect them greatly. We've worked with them a lot. I would never think of them in that manner. I try to give people benefit of the doubt, but I think words are important. Words like constantly, that can't be true. I don't know the words Blue Line use because I don't have them. But we want to make their time easy. We don't want to be a nuisance. We're a school in the Catholic tradition. We're trying to be good, trying to teach our students to be good, even though they're very exuberant at times, and to teach them what that means. That even if they're not yelling at each other, being mean, that their volume can be unkind. So that's something we have to tell them probably every 30 minutes. I think that knowing that Blue Lines area is still an issue, I would definitely pursue noise canceling. I don't know what they're called, but noise canceling tiles is what I'm thinking in my brain. That would seem to be the next logical step. I think that it would be helpful. I've spoken to the landlord about this, and this was, I believe he may have actually suggested it first, knowing Kevin well. Kevin is his kind of manager, so to speak. Not manager, that's not the right word, but he helps him with all the tenant areas. So they're close. And he said, well, you should really talk with Kevin first and kind of see, go over there, see how loud it is and kind of figure out what's going on.
Right.
I mean, again, I think our record shows, I think we teach logic, right? So I think to say that, because I would be very hesitant to let anyone believe that because it's not fully resolved, that somehow we have been unkind or negligent. It simply means that there's still a struggle that we would like to meet. So if we had been told, and just, again, we got rid of 3 classrooms, right? We got rid of our whole common area for 3 months. We got rid of 2 offices, and we still don't have offices. That shows that the steps we've already been not willing, but did take. So our track record is we make things happen quickly and big things, and we're willing to keep doing that at least through the end of our lease.
Do they know this?
Blue Line or
The
Warden?
complaining neighbors, do they know that you've actually taken these actions?
I think, as I understand our letter to you that you see in December, which we immediately responded, was shared with Jen Warden as well, from Najila. I felt that was probably better now that there had been a complaint that she be the mediator, so to speak. I had trouble with the wording, so I didn't feel like I should enter into that. He said, she said, or she said, without Najila, or
Yeah,
I'm
that,
saying your name wrong. I'm sorry. Nahila involved. So
that
we
is
let
the
it be.
appropriate
Okay.
way to handle that. Mhm.
Well, the complaint that gets unresolved because nobody ever did anything about it. If you're the person with the complaint, there are a few things that'll make you angrier than that. So I think, and I hate to sort of dump this on you, but I think it's incumbent upon you to make sure that your neighbors know that you are sensitive to their problems and that within reason, you're doing everything you can to address them. And that you have an open line of communication, the door's always open, come on over, have a listen, whatever. You let us know, whatever. I'm an old social worker, and back in the days, that's what we always like to do, is get
Mhm.
everybody involved.
When Kendra came over, my husband Judd is the headmaster. He thanked her and he said, please come over or call us. She has our cell phone numbers and let us know, like, hey, what was that noise? Like, he did speak to, like, he thanked her for that. Like, thank you so much. We don't know otherwise. We're not over there. So we did say that and didn't hear anything.
Right, and it requires this sort of persistent application. So you got to do it again and again and again. Make your presence known and make them very aware of your willingness to address this. But nothing worse than a landlord, for what it's worth, that ignores complaints.
The fact that a complaint was made 2 days ago is very troubling to me.
Yep.
Now we can continue the hearing and ask for either testimony or written responses from Blue Line Improvement. But we need to decide if the other criteria are still being met. All right, because well, actually, if we continue it, we would not have to make a decision today. We would just continue it and request the additional testimony. So we would not have to make a decision today, but eventually we'll have to make a decision based on the criteria that we've got in front of us in terms of what's in the town code. So we would need to look at each one of those and determine if it's like on page 5, if it fits in with the orderly growth of the neighborhood and community, and each one of those to make a finding on those if we wanted to extend this.
And
Is-
so can I ask my questions
Sure.
of the staff? If I tell you in advance, it's from page 6.
That's good. I don't mind if you ask questions of the staff right now. Go ahead.
I appreciate the fact that this letter was brought up that begins with when I initially moved in and talked about the screaming and the walls and all of that. I have not heard evidence that supports that. That's me talking as a member of the board. And I would ask my peers, have you heard the evidence that supports the claims made in this?
No,
Just what's stated in the letter.
Appreciate that. But what I,
a couple of those adjectives are really important. Constantly.
absolutely.
Let's not forget that. I mean, they're very persuasive because they certainly dramatize it, It's
Mhm.
not accurate. If it's exaggerated, it's a completely different thing. We get the feeling from listening to you that you sense that those words are an exaggeration. Okay. So maybe we need to ask them to clarify. We need to ask them to be more involved, more engaged in this, because a very important decision needs to be made. And so can they please express their tolerance so that, we understand and she understands what's acceptable.
My understanding is that situation has been removed since that person is no longer there. So
Since the person moved. Right?
But even
Since the
the
person- that's
evidence
my feeling.
that they
Yeah.
submitted to this hearing didn't, to my ears, support the claims that were made.
Okay.
I did not hear in the video, but that doesn't mean that this is a piece of cake for me, because I live in Emmitsburg and I value the statements that were put into writing. And so I would ask, the disturbances affect the ability of other tenants to operate effectively. That's a statement that you made, and I'm taking it seriously. And I can see that even if the disruptions were not at the level stated, they still could affect the ability of other tenants to operate effectively. So I don't have a problem with that. And I know which way it's pushing me. The school is not aligned with the town's economic development priorities. Same statement. You know, I can look at the issues and convince myself that a school in an industrial park doesn't align. Noise complaints and the school expanding. We've talked about the potential for that to be happening. Not compatible with the surrounding. And Nigel, please speak up if there's any detail that you would want to add. The way I want to come across is I'm taking this seriously. And while I don't believe all of the things that you guys have been accused of, I can't look past any of this. And the one that you brought up tonight, which isn't in this document, the fact that there was a basketball game being played in a parking lot and a kid, whether they be an adult or a child, could have been hit. That is clearly a safety issue. So I don't know that we need to defer. If I'm looking at the right evidence this time, I look at what the town staff has put in writing, and if these are facts, I think we're where we need to be. And where we need to be, I'm assuming, is there are 3 of us, 2 of us in all likelihood might go one way, or all 3 of, who knows, but there won't be a tie.
I think I would like to hear additional information from Blue Line.
Yep.
Before we make a decision.
I would recommend.
I mean, we've heard, and even in here, you said has been disruptive to nearby businesses, meaning more than one. The person who was there before, State Farm, has moved. But if it's businesses, then I'd like to hear from the businesses on the other sides. And also, I think it's influential on my decision that Builders Source signed a 5-year lease agreement, so that it would be good to know what Blue Line's intentions are if those are the neighbors that are going to be there.
I do just
Then-
want to, if I can interject on that point
Absolutely.
specifically, unless this, getting ahead of myself, but understanding the wanting to know about what the actual tenants that
right.
are going to be in this building. Unless you put a time limit on the special exception like you did last time, it would be permanent and survive theoretically multiple leases and multiple tenants.
Can we
Yeah.
put a time limit on?
We can
You-
put a time limit
you
on
d-
it.
you
Maybe
did
give it
last
a
time.
year and give you an opportunity to look around and see if there are alternatives, give you an opportunity to make changes and see if your neighbors feel like it's addressed the problem to sort of get to a new level set? We do that?
You can, provided that it is, we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit, and I apologize for leading us there to some extent, but you can condition it. The condition needs to be rationally based on your findings, whatever those findings are. But yes, there is
We-
some room there.
Okay, we could.
Diane, one last thing.
Mhm.
I don't think this is a small thing, you know?
It's not.
So it's one of these kind of things where if we're asking them to uproot themselves and go find someplace else to do their business, this training, this educational thing, a lot of lives are affected, you know, whoever drives them to and from and all that stuff. They have to go through a whole new process, right?
Mhm.
And being a sort of a former educator for what it's worth, I would not want to be in a situation where my school was being uprooted. So, you know, it's not the fight like hell kind of thing, but you definitely want to know that you'd exhausted your options. And I don't feel like we've done that here. I feel like we've kind of skimmed the surface. I understand people's complaints. Like I told you, I'm a former musician. You can get neighbors to complain about anything. But you have to be sensitive to it too. They have a right to live there and they don't want to listen to it. I got it. But, you know, I just kind of want to make sure that we're not dumping an undue burden on them to say, well, we can't stay here and have to find some new place to stay without feeling like they've exhausted all that.
I think we have to consider whether we would give a special exception permanently. Because when I personally voted on this last time, I thought it was till the end of December in order for you to find some other location that would be more appropriate other than an industrial park. So I didn't see this coming back and asking for something more permanent. I'm just saying what my logic was, that we did put a time condition on it, and that in my mind, it was not the most appropriate place for a school to be located. And we were making an exception, which is a special exception,
Right.
based on time, that would give them time to get set up, get started, and be, in the meantime, be looking for another location that would be more appropriate, where people could go outside, where there would be room enough for people to drive and et cetera. So the noise factors are something that I think we need to look at if we're going to extend it, but I would not feel comfortable extending it permanently, which we would do if we didn't put a time on it.
So if we wanted to put a time limit on it, it's with the thought in mind that they are going to try and find another location.
Mhm.
Right?
That would be,
And
yes,
that our neighbors in this case are going to have a new opportunity to assess their sensitivity to this school and whether or not they think it's that annoying. And if they still persist with it's very annoying, then I think the answer is pretty clear at that point. They
Well-
can't stay there.
and we also can't count on the fact, even if we ask them how long they're going to be there, we can't count on the fact that Builders First Source is going to play out their lease. Something could happen to them. They could go bankrupt. The kind of businesses that would be next to this facility may be offices that are the generic facilities that are called for in an industrial park. And therefore, we'd have to go through all this all over again, because it wouldn't necessarily be Builders Source and Blue Line Improvement. So I think the issue is this is a special exception granted for while I was hoping that you would be looking for a more suitable location. That's
I think that makes a lot of sense. If I hear you correctly, what you're suggesting is that we will look deeper at the current issues,
Right.
find a way to put a lid on them temporarily, knowing that this is still an industrial park, and there's got to be a point at which you guys grow beyond Emmitsburg Industrial Park. That is what you're.
That is what I'm suggesting, looking at this overall big picture. Yes.
And so, with all due respect to our town planner, how do you feel about that?
It'll give me some more time to gather evidence to support my argument. Because, I mentioned what Blue Line told me, but I don't have it in writing, so I can
Right.
get that information if needed.
All anecdotal.
Just
Yeah.
so I'm clear, are we contemplating a continuance at this point, or we?
Yes,
Okay.
we're
I-
contemplating a continuance in light of getting additional information in writing or to come talk to us.
Right, there are just lives affected here.
Right.
And I
Right.
think we need to be sensitive to the consequences of uprooting this place, without giving it a real thorough opportunity to prove itself,
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
May I ask, will we be given a list of things I didn't receive the packet last time I received the packet. So this is the first time I'm hearing the 14 things. Would we be able
Oh.
to hear, so we know what to work on? That would be helpful.
I don't know why.
Some of the,
Couldn't we do
I-
that?
it's public information.
Yeah,
It's public information and it's all conditions that are in the town code. So,
and we would welcome any common sense additions that you want to add to that. Somehow or another to benefit the people that are complaining so that, this gets resolved, right?
Yeah, I think he signed up anyway, so yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
One is I've, as you have observed, for obvious reasons, I've been in and out, mostly out. So I wanted to, essentially everything that you all are thinking, I think I'm mostly also thinking as well. First thing is, this would not be our permanent location. It's one of the first impressions I had upon looking at it. There's not a whole lot of grass. It's an industrial park. Precisely, we understand that it is precisely an exception to the use that we are seeking. And if we didn't think we had a good reason, we wouldn't ask for it. I think we do. I think, not to toot our own horn, but I think we do bring something to the area. Obviously, Emmitsburg's already on the map. Part of the reason, though, that it is on the map is Catholic education. I don't want to say that otherwise it might be, nobody's ever heard of Goltz, but it's in Kent County. Nobody's ever heard of it. Emmitsburg might be in the same position, but we're not the only reason for that. Certainly, I don't think we're a big part of it, but we're in that tradition. The safety mitigation I hear loud and clear, and that can easily go away. In light of the bits and pieces that I heard as I was in and out, and that I'm sure I'll get later on, I'll address those first thing tomorrow morning so that our students know the extent to which they are still causing problems. And I think if they know what the stakes are, they'll get in line. Yeah, I would also say to the extent of, to the extent that there's concern about economic activity here in that particular area, for whatever it's worth, I do know that we at least have people coming into Emmitsburg and leaving dollars here that otherwise would not be. And we even have had one family relocate not to Emmitsburg, but closer to Emmitsburg from the other side of Frederick. So, and I
For
actually,
school purposes.
partially. This is a guy who's accustomed to driving a long distance anyway. He was commuting from to Annapolis daily. So they're on actually on the other side. But I anticipate also people do, it's not unheard of, move for schools. And we intend to be in this area not in that space, but in this area forever. So that's all I have to say. Period. I think everything else was probably well covered. So thank you.
I appreciate both of you coming here, both of you being willing to work with us. Our intent is to work with any business that wants to come to Emmitsburg, and we welcome you. So we just want to make sure that it's a good fit for the area that you're in. And I think if we can continue this, do you need a 30-day public notice?
I don't
I'm
believe.
not sure.
Whatever is in the code. I don't think it's 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough time.
For Najila to get the information from Blue Line?
For it to all make sense so that a decision can be made, whether it's just that or whatever else.
Well, let's be very clear then. The continuance in my mind is for gathering additional written or being willing to come in person to discuss the noise complaints.
Right.
Okay.
The continuance would be you, the board, requesting additional information to make an informed decision that you need.
From Blue
Right,
Line
and
Improvement and from Builders
My
Source.
thought on this is going to be, if you're making constructive changes to this space that are supposed to mitigate the problem, minimize the noise, I'd like to know if you succeeded. So, I don't think we can really decide that until they've been given a fair opportunity to do this thing that they think will make a difference. So how much time do you think you need in order to do that?
The tricky part is part of that would be being able to have the whole space. So it's,
How can we help with that?
right,
Yeah,
I can't knock
need
down
to
the
tell
wall.
us, yeah.
I mean, we're paying for the other space, so money's going out the door. If we can knock down the wall, that would be helpful. I wonder, is it possible, there's only 2 months left of school. Is it possible to do like a contingency exception, I don't know. But without the special exception zoning extended, I can't knock down the wall. We can't get better because we're too small in our current space. We will do everything we can, but we would be better if we could have the whole space that we were initially intended to have in coming to this location.
So here's a
this
way
is a
that maybe
problem.
we could knock down the wall.
Uh,
Okay. If the town has taken a position that your presence affects the ability of other tenants to operate effectively, and it's because of noise, and the solution is you need the whole space, then can't this committee tell the landlord, in order for the school to continue in this space, they need what they're paying for?
no.
No, we can't.
Oh,
I don't
the
see
county
how we
needs the
could say that.
zoning.
Yeah, so I understand the heart and the thought behind trying to continue the hearing to see if noise canceling solutions are effective, but I do think that is going a bit beyond the purpose or the rational purpose of a continuance. And I do think that understandably, we are getting a bit in the weeds on specific noise complaints. When again, the question for this board and granting a special exception is, this particular property, does it have unique challenges, characteristics, noise certainly being one of the things that is rightfully being talked a lot about and considered,
Criteria. Mhm.
versus a private school anywhere else in the industrial zone. I think that a continuance for purposes of gathering more information and you getting the quality of information that you're looking to make what is agreed a very important decision that does have wide-ranging impacts, I think that's appropriate. I don't know that continuing for purposes of a wait and see approach is appropriate, if that makes sense.
How long, Najila, how long did you extend the special exception? You said it was till the end of the school year? When they requested it in August?
So we didn't put an expiration date on that.
On what?
On that, there was no expiration date on that use and occupancy permit.
Oh,
Yeah.
I had asked for it through the lease terms, just so we know we would not have to move suddenly.
right. I mean,
was
for
an
the whole
oversight
school
on-
year,
Yeah. It was
right?
an oversight on staff's part.
Okay. So if that's true and the use and occupancy permit is good until the end of this school year and not beyond that, then does that give us the time to get additional information? What's stopping you from knocking down the wall if you're paying for the rent?
The special exception zoning is required for the county to allow for the demolition and the occupancy increased.
They need a zoning permit, which the town cannot issue without the approval of a special
How
exception.
long would that take to get?
They've rushed it before. It's up to 2 weeks, but it's waiting on this decision.
Okay, so we have to come up with findings.
Well, all right, hold
Are
on.
you ready?
First of all, are we done taking evidence?
I am.
Okay, I think we
Let me
should,
let me just make sure Scott's done. Are you done with the evidence for this?
I would ask the question and no doubt be told that it's not what we're here for. But the school is not aligned with the town's economic development priorities. Is there anything that the school can do to better align with our economic development priorities? Don't have to answer that one because there's another one right behind it. The noise complaints about the school expanding. Is there anything that we can levy on the school? You can't expand beyond a certain point. But the big one is it conflicts with the intent of the industrial park and the goals outlined in the town's comprehensive plan. Is there anything that the school can do while they're growing for the purpose of moving to a better suited facility? Are those reasonable questions or are they out of bounds?
those are reasonable questions. Do you have any?
So you don't have to extemporaneously answer them, but if we're putting in a motion, couldn't it be to come up with some things that we can agree on that make the school while it's here more compatible with the town?
My opinion of that is that the only thing that the school has control of right now that they can make any improvements to is their noise and the disruption to other businesses in that area. I don't see that there's anything they can do in terms of economic development considerations. in
And
the
you may
industrial park.
be very well may be correct, okay? But I think that as professionals in education, you could come up with some limits that you're going to put on yourself that says, we won't be able to control the noise in this facility beyond X number of students. And therefore, you guys know what the objective is, just like we do. When you reach that limit, you've got to be prepared to move.
Well, they've already anticipated in 25 to 26,
And I heard that,
up to 30 students.
okay, and so
Right now it's 22
the
Yes, that helps.
question
22, that
could
does help
be
for next
then,
year.
for next year.
Yes.
Okay.
Can
Go ahead,
you
sir.
manage the education environment in such a way that it will not be a disruption to adjacent businesses? And we could come up with an agreement ahead of time on, and here's, where we have to draw the line. Okay, if we cross that line, then the school's got to move.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of things that we could do if we allow ourselves the creative opportunity.
I see their letter that says we seek to increase our town occupancy allowance from 30 to 50.
I asked, so, because I understand we would have to do that at some point, and I figured it's expensive to do a Board of Appeals hearing, so I figured we'd throw that in now. We will not be 50 likely by the end of the lease, in all honesty,
Okay, and the end of the lease is 2 years?
2 years.
Okay, so
So if we're looking for an opportunity to gather more facts, one of the facts we need to gather is how big can the school grow before you lose the ability to not impact adjacent businesses?
Is that not expanded or expanded?
Yeah, that depends on density.
Right, it has to do with the space that we have.
And
Well, so
Partially.
the application,
Yeah,
all right,
the
and that's another thing. We're talking about the application. So we're not talking about a theoretical thing. So your application, I think, is for the space with the wall taken down. Yeah, so that's what we would be considering.
mhm, and that's it.
that seems
Um,
like a reasonable starting point. And you guys make the determination.
Right, right. I think that when we looked at the location, it was for the whole space. We always understood the wall to be quite temporary. We would not have come here if it was just that small space. That was just always part of the story.
Right, and the, you've already got listed in here what you're doing to abate the noise issues.
Well, it would
know,
help to know how we can help Blue Line
Right,
more though.
balls aren't allowed inside.
Right.
We've taken steps to ensure no backpacks bump their walls, so you've already done some of these things. All right, so you're saying that you need a decision preferably tonight in order to move forward with
The wall.
the wall being removed. All right,
Which would help us be better neighbors. But also from Blue Line, having only heard the banging complaint, that's what we addressed.
right, and we
So-
don't know what the complaint from Blue Line Improvement is.
I would also, I don't know if this is a town consideration or just landlord, but for the limited amount of time they're outside, like safety cones might help. I know I say our parking lot, not because it's ours, but the one we use, like I said, there's very little traffic. I don't know if that's a possibility. That would
That would
make it
be
safer.
between you and the landlord,
Mhm.
I would think. But just recognizing that it's an issue is important. So, do you guys feel comfortable with not getting specific information from Blue Line and making a decision tonight?
I feel very comfortable with postponing making a final decision on this until everybody has done everything they need to do. And we're just not there right now. There are outstanding issues. We've got all these questions. The reason is because there's outstanding issues. There are facts that we've yet to get.
That we don't know.
So I would personally prefer that you all get an opportunity to do what you need to do in order to demonstrate that you can noise proof this place. I don't know how much time that takes. It has to be reasonable. And then in addition to that, that we talk to their neighbors and let them know. I mean, I don't, how much we can do that. Can we get involved and say, well, we've got an applicant here and they're trying very hard to meet your needs, and we want to make sure that you understand that we're supportive of them.
So first of all, just to be clear, this would all need to take place in a public hearing. These aren't private conversations that we can have with neighbors, right? I don't believe you have subpoena power. You can't force people to appear.
Right.
You can certainly ask, staff can ask. You can continue it to another hearing, attempt to gather more information beyond with what you've been
Right.
presented, yes, and then come back and it's either there and it's not,
Right.
and then you make the decision at that point.
So I'm initially comfortable with continuing it and asking town staff. We should not be discussing with them, but asking town staff to request the blue line improvement and Builder Source. Ask them for their input to this situation, because if we're saying businesses, we need to ask for businesses on both sides and just ask them to please submit evidence of any issues they find or any comments that they'd like to make that would assist with this case.
Yeah, and I would just add to it that they understand that our applicant is really doing whatever they can to address this problem. I mean, the worst thing is to have something like that continue to complain and nothing gets done. So, you know, as long as they understand they're really trying to do that, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
We're looking for solutions. So,
Do you
All
have
right.
any IT geeks in your school?
I mean,
No.
our students,
Students?
we have one, I
Can-
think. I don't know that I would
is this
call him.
related to
Um,
the,
It,
I'm not
in
sure
my
what it's in
mind, it
reference to.
would be,
It's a
you could-
self-proclaimed geek. I can't.
decibels is how you measure noise,
Mhm.
okay? You could have a computer continuously monitor the decibel level of your school. And you could tell the people adjacent to the school for as long as you're there, this is what we're doing to monitor ourselves from noise.
Good idea.
Technology is an amazing thing. We ought to use it from time to time. And that's not directed at you.
Thank you.
That's why I'm asking. You probably have more kids than you know of that would love a project like that. And you could protect yourself and add value to all of the things that you guys don't align with so
Well,
far.
the nice thing about what you're saying is it would be evidence-based,
Mhm.
you know?
You know, you
They
can
could just
do
say,
it with
"Look, we monitor
humidity,
this thing,
temperature,
you know,
decibels.
every month, and this is what we've got. Here's the printout. You can see we got a little loud this day, but then, you know, it flattened out and it's like that. And you get a sense of just how egregious this really is, you know, which clearly from the point of view of somebody who is annoyed by this, it's as egregious as it can be. You know, it's like, oh, these people, they're driving us crazy. You know, whether that's true to somebody that's less sensitive to the whole matter, that doesn't have the same opinions, whatever, it's unknown. But I don't like to see them get judged by people that just don't want any noise like that. You know, any small bit of noise, they're going to jump on it and say, well, if you did do what Scott is talking about, and you could actually look at it and say, well, here's a peak point. But other than that, we maintain this level below this thing. You could probably even, you know, consult what's left of the federal government in order to be able to get some kind of ruling on what would be considered permissible, you know?
That
okay,
already exists.
Mhm.
And with all due respect, I didn't hear anything in those videos that sounded like
Bombs going
an
off.
an automobile horn.
Right.
Okay, that is above the acceptable level. It certainly wasn't jet engine type noise.
all right. Good. Based on that, I'd like to hear a motion. Well, let me ask the question first. Najila, how long do you need? When should we continue? When should we suggest the hearing be continued until?
I would need at least a couple of weeks.
Pardon?
I would need at least a couple of weeks.
A couple of
Couple
weeks?
of weeks.
Okay. All right.
All right, well, please allow yourself adequate time.
3 weeks? All right, 3 weeks, okay. Do I hear a motion to continue the meeting with the to continue the hearing with the request that Najila ask for information from both Blue Line and Builder Source about comments about this particular noise impacts of the Chesterton Academy so that we can have additional information to make this decision.
Yeah, I support the motion.
All right, so you made the motion. Yeah, I can't make the motion. I was just suggesting. And Scott seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Works.
Works? Okay,
Was that acceptable?
good.
I think it would be helpful to have a list of things we are asked to work on. If that's possible.
The
14
the packet,
points.
the agenda
you share
packet
that
is
with them?
public information, right? I believe it's on the website. In the,
Yeah.
yeah, have you seen the website?
No, I just thought I would get it like last time, so I didn't
So-
seek it out.
All right. So is that, so they are done, you're done for the evening, you look tired and you've got a tired child.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thanks,
We
everyone.
appreciate it. And we've got more to do,
Okay.
but you guys,
Yep,
right.
yep.
all right, good. So what we need to do now is move on to the updated rules that Clark did so nicely for us. He's got 2 copies of the rules.
So honestly, Leslie did these
Okay.
a while ago. I think it's just been a while since you've had a meeting, so I'm not gonna steal honor. Leslie did this.
Actually, they were in, June last year.
Yeah,
I wondered about that, but we hadn't had any meetings.
Right, yeah.
since then.
Yeah.
All right, so did you guys get a chance to review these?
No.
Okay. There is a copy.
I didn't really understand what they were.
Okay. Leslie prepared rules of procedure for us before so that we would understand, we're a quasi judicial board, so that we would understand exactly what we needed to do and how many members we needed to have, what would happen if the alternate was absent without excuse, that kind of stuff. So what Leslie did was look at them. That was actually how come I came to the decision that we needed to elect officers at the beginning of every year, because it forced me to look at the rules of procedure again. Did you get a chance to look at these, Scott?
I even asked Clark a question about one that I had, and he answered it.
Oh,
I'm fine.
okay. Are you fine with us discussing these without you reading through them, or would you rather continue
that's
it until
fine.
the next meeting?
That's fine.
All right,
If you want to, I have some concerns about how much time it's gonna take. So I think we need to agree. If we can do it in 15 minutes, then let's do it. If
I
we
am
can't, let's not.
certain that we can do it in 15 minutes. The changes are minor and they're outlined here in blue.
Yeah, so just to clarify and set the stage, you had rules of procedure that you previously adopted. I think I actually drafted those. And so then in June, Leslie went through and made some additions, made some slight tweaks that I believe you should see in the compare version that was included. So the changes are in blue, both the adds and the strike throughs. I have reviewed these. I do not believe that there is anything earth-shattering,
or disturbing
new.
about them.
No, I mean, really, from our perspective, this is just good hygiene,
Good.
trying to make
Mhm.
sure that you have good procedures in place so that when questions arise during a hearing, how do we handle this? The answer
Right.
is written
I
down
can
and you're
always
not.
look at it and go,
Yes.
oh,
Right. So
forgot
for
to do that.
example,
Yeah.
we were talking about continuing the hearing tonight. I'm flipping through looking like, okay, yes, you can do that. That's fine.
Right.
Better to have established rules for the sake of due process, to make sure everyone gets a fair shake. So
Right.
I'm happy to answer any specific questions on the changes or things that weren't changed, if you have any.
Well, there's one right here, section 6, decision 6.1. The board may hold more than one hearing on an application and may continue a hearing over several dates if it cannot be included at one hearing.
Yes,
Would what we went through tonight constitute an example of that?
that is,
Mhm.
that is what made me feel better about supporting your continuance motion. Yes.
Mhm. And I had just read that this afternoon and gone over everything, so
All right.
I was sure that we could do
See,
that.
I thought
Yes.
from my quote unquote training from some many years ago on this, that that was always a possibility.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably true. Just always better to have it written down. So
No,
there's
no,
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 so
no.
there's no
Here,
thinking
here.
back to trainings from years
I'm an old
ago or,
government guy, I
yeah.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
yep.
So I had read through them and didn't have any questions and didn't see anything that I had a question about. Is the question that you raised something that you think would be instructive for you to tell Wayne and I, or was it something different?
What do you think?
Let's just get it on the record for
Yeah,
the sake
let's
of
get
it.
it on the
Y-
record.
it-
Because I was actually curious about you guys having a discussion outside of the public hearing, so that I was kind of looking a little
Sure.
askance when
Yeah.
you
Well,
guys were talking.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that conversation ran afoul of it, but let's
Right.
have it out anyway. So, do you want to restate your question? So what had been asked was just with respect to what you should be discussing outside of public hearings with people in the community. And this was kind of raised, and I think the reason you asked the question was you mentioned you had spoken to the board of commissioners and, them not knowing about this. Perfectly fine to have discussions about anything that happened on the record, in open, the existence of a meeting, an agenda item. It's when you are getting into the substance of something that you are still contemplating, the actual merits of, well, I think I'm going to do this because of this, or then you're receiving feedback that could influence you one way or another outside of a public hearing. That's when
Mhm.
things are getting problematic. Just
So anything that isn't already in the public domain is off limits. If it was discussed previously in a Board of Commissioners meeting or here, we can share that information only as a matter of record.
sure, you can certainly share that information that is in the public. And I think the other thing and the other rule that you were looking at, it's important that in your individual capacities, when you're out in the world, to not make statements purporting to speak on behalf of the entire board.
Right, like
go.
we're going to decide that this
Yes.
is fine
Yes.
in the industrial
Yes.
park, or we're gonna decide
Yes.
the variance is
Yes.
fine.
When you're sitting up here, you are, yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
Right.
Yep,
that's all.
thank you for bringing that up. I just wanted to make sure that we all understood that. Okay. And like I like that you or Leslie put that, we're free to go visit the site, but just not as a group. I mean, I think that's important to just state out
Right.
loud. so
Because
that-
then you do get into a potential Open Meetings Act violation if you're meeting and discussing and the
Right.
optics are poor. So.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So Wayne and I need to talk about music if we see each other outside of here, not.
Just start humming really loud.
Anyway, any other questions about this?
No, I'm done.
Do I hear a motion to accept the revised Board of Appeals Rules of Procedure as of June 13th, 2024 as
Scott,
written?
you brought this up. You want to do that? Motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
All right, has been
Second.
made by Scott, seconded by Wayne. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right,
Thanks, everybody.
the ayes have it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
And so we should be prepared to meet again on short notice
We'll meet again.
to help our,
Najila will let us know when the date is that's acceptable. She'll probably reach out to all three of us and make sure the date is acceptable to us and give her enough time. Thank you, Jack. Meeting is adjourned. Yeah. Motion to adjourn.
I-
All right,
motion-
Wayne,
second.
seconded. All in favor? Aye.